ಪ್ರೀತಿಯ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳೇ, ಅಕ್ಕ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಯ ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸಸ್ಗೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತ ಸುಸ್ವಾಗತ. ಡಿಯರ್ aspirants, heartily welcome to Akka Academy's online classes. Today we'll be dealing with Union Executive. Within that, we'll be taking up the very important institution of India, that is President of India. Before we enter into President of India, I want to discuss few things about executive. What do you understand by the word executive, and who are called as executives, and what are their functions? If you look into any of the government, it will have three wings. The first wing is legislature, the second wing is executive, the third wing is judiciary. Legislature will formulate the policy, executive will execute the policies which is being made by the legislature, and judiciary will review or it will check the constitutional validity of the action of executives and the policies of the legislature. So in this discussion we will be concentrating only on the executives. So what do you understand by the phrase executive functions? What are the functions of executive? ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟಿವ್ ಅಥವಾ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಂಗದ ಕಾರ್ಯಾಂಗ ಏನೇನೆಲ್ಲ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ನಾವು ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಫಾರ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ implement the policies whichever been made by the legislature. The next thing is it will initiate the policies. ಕಾರ್ಯಾಂಗದ ಕೆಲಸ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಶಾಸಕಾಂಗಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಏನ್ ಬಿಡಬೇಕು, ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ರಿಕ್ವೈರ್ಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಸೋಶಿಯೋ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ nation, socio-economic development of the nation. Then it will look after the day-to-day administration and it will strive to provide the good governance too. And it will look after the home affairs or the internal affairs along with the external affairs or international affairs. ಆಂತರಿಕ ಮತ್ತು ಬಾಹ್ಯ ವಿಚಾರಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಆಡಳಿತದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಆರ್ಥಿಕ ಮತ್ತು ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕ ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿಯ ಬಗ್ಗೆ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಯಾವ ಶಾಸಕಾಂಗ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹ ನೀತಿ ನಿಯಮಗಳನ್ನ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾರ್ಯರೂಪಕ್ಕೆ ತರಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ಚಿಂತನೆ ನಡೆಸುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಬಾಡಿ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟಿವ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಬಾಡಿ ಆರ್ ದ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ವಿಚ್ ವಿಲ್ ಲುಕ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್, ಇನಿಷಿಯೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪಾಲಿಸೀಸ್, ಸೋಶಿಯೋ ಎಕನಾಮಿಕ್ ಡೆವಲಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ನೇಷನ್, ಅಡ್ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್, internal and the external affairs. It will be, if you look into these issues, these are all the continuous process, these are not sporadic process. So we do require a body which will be working continuously, then who are called as executives? The institution which is responsible for executing the policy is called as a part of executive. In India, especially, the union executive consists of president, vice president, prime minister, and other council of ministers, and the attorney general. These positions are almost political in nature. They are non-permanent. Some are directly elected and some are nominated. This is the political executive wing. When it comes to non-political permanent executive wing, it starts from cabinet secretary to other executives. It might be government group A, C, D employees too. These people constitute the non-political permanent executive wing. Starting from the political executives to the non-political executives, these members will be striving to provide these or to make these things to happen in any of the country. So today we'll be dealing with the important institution of India, that is President of India. So we know the fact that India was under the British rule for 2 to 3 centuries. Many of the founding fathers of our nation have witnessed some of the institutions, their development and their working. It might be the position of king or queen, or it might be the system of government in the British environment. If you do check the Indian constitution or Indian parliamentary system, it is mostly influenced by the British parliamentary system. The major principle of the British parliamentary system is it has nominal head on one side and the real head on the other side. The nominal head will be queen or the king over there, and the real head will be prime minister who heads the council of ministers. This nominal head is also called as titular head, or it is also called as nominal, titular, or ceremonial. All the policies, all the decisions will be taken in the name of king or queen. But this king or the queen will not be in a position to decide that. They will not be in a position to control that. They will not be the determining factor. It will be decided by the PM. It will be controlled by the PM and his Council of Ministers. It will be determined by the PM and Council of Ministers. That is why PM is called as a real power or the real head of the nation, and the king or queen is called as a nominal head of the nation. In the same fashion, we also followed British parliamentary system. Within that, the philosophy of nominal head and the real head being taken in the Indian constitution or in the Indian administration. Here we have the nominal head, that is president. The institution which is similar to the position of queen or king in England, it's a president of India. And when it comes to real head, it is PM who heads the Council of Ministers. PM of India and the powers is going to the similar powers with the with that of the powers of PM in British Parliament. So this president is the nominal head or titular head, or is the ceremonial head for the formalities. Nominal head ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾಮ ಮಾತ್ರ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಆಕ್ಟ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಪಾಲಿಸಿ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಟ್ರೀಟಿ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಅಗ್ರಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಟೇಕನ್ ಇನ್ ದ ನೇಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್. But the fact is, president will not be the deciding factor. President will not be the determining factor. President will not be in a position to control it in any way. Everything will be decided. Everything will be determined and controlled by the PM of India. So that is why the Indian president is called as a nominal head or titular head or the ceremonial head. So this is the major difference or the major relationship between the president and the PM. Then the only difference between the Indian president or the presidential post and the post of king or queen over here, as India is a republic, we have the elected president. Either he might be elected directly or indirectly, but he is elected. When it comes to king or queen, it is ಹೆರಿಡಿಟರಿ, ವಂಶಾವಳಿಯಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರೋಂಥದ್ದು. ನೀವು ಆ ವಂಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಥವಾ ಕ್ವೀನ್ ಆಗಬಹುದು. ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಟು ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ, ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್. Let's check the important articles given in the Constitution of India in relation to president. What are the powers given to president and what are the articles related to president? Article 52 says, Article 52 of Indian Constitution says that there shall be President of India. As the word shall represents, it's not the may or might. It is saying that shall in the sense it shows that it is the constitutional obligation. There has to be post of the president throughout the year. It will be working in a continuous manner to implement all the policies or to look after the development of the nation or to look after the internal and the external matters. That shows that there shall be President of India. Article 53 says about the what all the executive powers and how he is going to exercise those powers. The President will exercise these powers which are given under the Article 53. It says that Article 53 of the Constitution of India says that some of the powers will be exercised directly with his discretion, whereas the other functions or the works will be exercised indirectly by the subordinate officers. Who are the subordinate officers to the president? PM, who heads the Council of Ministers, will be the subordinate officer. He is the political subordinate officers. Apart from this, we will have the permanent subordinate officers starting from the cabinet secretary to the other executives who will be working under government of India. Through these persons, president will be able to execute all his exercises. And when we come to the discretionary power, the discretionary power of the president is very much limited compared to the discretionary power of the governor. In the most of the cases, the discretionary power of the president is situational. Constitution has not given any of the discretionary powers in general to the president. Most are situational. That we will discuss in the later part of the discussion. So the next article of Indian Constitution, which will give the importance to the president, is Article 74. Article 74 says that there shall be Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister to aid and advise the President of India. If you look into the wordings over here, it shows that aid and there shall be Council of Ministers headed by PM to aid and advise. So it shows that the duty of the PM who heads the Council of Ministers is to aid and advise the President. And Constitution in the earlier, like it was written in the original Constitution, later it was changed. The Constitution was not clear whether the advice and the aid given by the PM who heads the Council of Ministers is binding on the President or not. Is binding or not. So if you look into these issues, somewhere it looks like executive is superior than the legislature. We have parliamentary form of government. The basic principle of the parliamentary form of government is legislative is always superior than the executive, and the executive is responsible to the legislature, or the executive is controlled by the legislature. So this is one kind of discussion. The other part is during 1975, during the emergency in 1975, Mrs. Indira Gandhi wanted to implement what are wills and wishes she had. So what she did, she changed the wordings or the phrases under the Article 74 through the constitutional amendment. In the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, Article 74 being changed in such a fashion that the aid and advice which is given by the Prime Minister is binding on the President, and he should act according to that. 42nd Amendment Act says that the aid and advice whatever been given by the Prime Minister who heads the Council of Ministers, it is binding on the President, and President should act according to that. So it was rephrased in the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act during the Janata government rule. They wanted to restore the dignity of the president, so they did minor change. It was not the major change, but they changed the wordings over here. What they told, whatever aid and advice given by the Prime Minister, who is the Council of Minister, can be returned back by the President in the first instance. So, whatever advice given by the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers in the first instance can be sent back by the President for the reconsideration. ಇದನ್ನ ಮೊದಲ ಬಾರಿಗೆ ಅವ್ರು ಕಳಿಸಿದ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇ ಸಲಹೆ ಇದ್ರೂ ಸೂಚನೆ ಇದ್ರೂ ನೀವೊಂದ್ಸರಿ ಇದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅದನ್ನ ವಾಪಸ್ಸು ಕಳಿಸಿ ಕೊಡಬಹುದು. When the Prime Minister, who is the Council of Minister, if he send back the same thing or if he changes the advice whatever he has given, and if he sends it for the second time, that is binding on the President. So in the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, it told that it is binding in the first instance itself. In the 44th Constitutional Amendment Act, it took a step further and it will made in the second instance it is compulsory. So what will happen if the President does not agree with the advice which is being coming to him for the second time? This will result in the violation of the constitutional provisions. The violation of the constitutional provision is the only thing or the only reason for the impeachment of the President. If he doesn't agree or if he doesn't act with the aid and advice which are being sent back by the PM, who is the Council of Ministers, will result in impeachment of the President. Next thing is Article 79. What Article 79 says? There shall be Parliament of India. It consists of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and the President. So it consists of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and the President. If you look into these factors, Rajya Sabha is the integral part of Parliament, Lok Sabha is the integral part of the Parliament, and even President is the integral part of the Parliament. Any bill to become law, it has to pass through three levels. It has to pass through one first house and in the second house, and it should get President assent. Then only it will become act or law. That is why we have President is the integral part of the Parliament. Whatever discussion we have made till now, if we want to conclude or if we want to take the crux of it, it shows that President is the integral part of the Parliament, but he is not the member of Parliament. He will not be member of either Lok Sabha or he will not be member of Rajya Sabha. While dealing with the qualification of the President, we will come across one more issue. He will be qualified like under the qualification, the Constitution of India says that he will be as qualified as the member of Lok Sabha for contesting election in Lok Sabha. And if you check into the other articles which deals about the President, it shows that he is the functional part of the Parliament. So it is a important position or the institution in the Indian administration. So he is the integral part of the Parliament, but he is not the member of Parliament. He is the functional part of the Parliament. Why it is called the functional part of the Parliament? The institution is very much necessary for the normal functioning of the nation or the administration or the governance. So that is why it is called as a functional part. Please do remember this integral part of the Parliament, because KPSC, those who are writing the KPSC examination, remember this one. This has been asked once or twice. It has given the statement have been even in UPSC they have given the statement saying that Parliament consists of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha only. Wrong statements. It should be the Parliament consists of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha and the President as per the Article 79 of the Constitution of India. So, if you check the other names given to the President, The president is also called as nominal head executive. Real executive will be PM. It's the office of the president is also called ceremonial office. He is the first citizen of India. He is the formal head of executive. Whatever, like if you check into the constitution or if you go through the constitution, the powers given to the wide range of powers are given to the president, but they are exercised by the PM. On the paper, every formalities will be fulfilled by the signature or the assent of the president, but he will not be in a position to determine, decide, or control the things which is happening around him. Everything will be controlled or decided by PM, who heads the Council of Ministers. So, if you do check the relation between president and the PM, president is called head of the state and the PM is called head of the government. The president is called nominal head executive, PM is called the real executive. So whatever powers being given to the PM is much wider than the president. If you do check the precedence in every function, president will come first and it will be followed by the PM. When it comes to the power structure, PM comes first and comes the president. This is the relationship between president and the PM. If you do check the relationship between PM and the president, in terms of precedence, president will come in the first, and in terms of the power structure, PM will come in the next. As we follow the parliamentary form of the government, here the parliamentary form of the government is also called as a prime ministerial form of the government, where the prime minister wields the maximum power compared to the nominal executive or the president of India. The president will be elected. Who is going to conduct the election for president? The election for president will be conducted by the Election Commission of India. For that purpose, it will create a electoral college. College in the sense, ನಾವು ನೋಡಿರ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ, ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಕಾಲೇಜು, ಆರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಕಾಲೇಜು, ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಾಲೇಜು, ಪ್ರೈವೇಟ್ ಕಾಲೇಜು, ಆ ತರ ಅಂತಲ್ಲ. This electoral college, it refers to group of selectors who will elect a candidate for any post. In this case, it is president. So, what do you understand by the phrase electoral college? It is a group of selectors who elect a candidate for any post or the post of president. Who constitutes the electoral college? ಈ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟೋರಲ್ ಕಾಲೇಜ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಯಾರ್ಯಾರೆಲ್ಲ ಸೇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಯಾರ್ಯಾರಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಅವಕಾಶ ಇದೆ. The electoral college consists of majorly elected MPs, elected MLAs, and the elected MLAs of Union Territory, elected MLAs of state. So here you have to remember this word. Repeatedly they are telling about elected. That shows that in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha there used to be nominated members. In the Lok Sabha earlier, 2 Anglo-Indians were to be nominated by the president. Now in December 2019 they removed the nomination of the Anglo-Indians into the Lok Sabha. Into the Rajya Sabha there will be nomination of 12 members. So these nominated members will not be allowed to vote in the presidential election. And in the same way, the elected MLAs of the state can only vote. The nominated MLAs, earlier before December 2019, there used to be like for the Legislative Assembly of the state, the governor used to appoint one Anglo-Indian to the Legislative Assembly of every state. Now they are done away with this one, and there are legislative councils in the some of the states, not everywhere. How many? Like if you do remember earlier, the legislative council was there in 7 states. Now it is being reduced to 6. Please do remember this thing. Why it has been reduced to 6? Because Jammu Kashmir, the lost its special provisions under this one, under the Reorganization Act. They have removed the Legislative Council of Jammu Kashmir. Now the only MLAs, the two elected MLAs of the state, can vote in the presidential election. No nominated members from the legislative assembly, and the members of legislative councils will never be allowed to vote in the presidential election. When it comes to the elected MLAs of UT, only two UTs earlier were given this chance, that is Delhi and the Pondicherry. Now it's been extended to Jammu Kashmir also. So if you want to check about the what are the constitutional provision or the legislative provisions of the Jammu Kashmir, it matches with the legislative and the constitutional provisions of the Pondicherry to the larger extent. Delhi is a different issue. There is a different case. So you have to consider these three issues. You have to remember elected MPs, no nominated MPs. Elected MLAs, no nominated MLAs and MLCs. Elected MLAs of the Union Territory where the legislature is located. In Delhi, they have the legislature. In Pondicherry, they have the legislature, state legislature, and the J&K has the legislature. So these members can participate in the election of the president. How the election will be held? It will be held in the indirect fashion. It is not the direct election. People will not directly elect. There was a debate in the Constituent Assembly. There was a debate regarding the direct election or the indirect election. So the founding fathers resorted for the indirect election. Why they have gone for the indirect election? Because in India we have parliamentary form of government. In the parliamentary form of government, PM will hold the maximum powers. Most of the time, PM will be elected directly by the people. If we do go for direct election in case of the president, if even president is elected directly by the people, then he will be having the popular support, and on the other side he will be having the popular support also. Whenever PM sends any of the policy, he might discard it, saying that even I enjoy the popularity compared to you, even I have the popular support, then there might be conflict of interest which is detrimental to the administration of India. So they have gone for the indirect election to avoid this condition. So what is the method used for the election of the president? They will go for proportional representation with the single transferable vote. If you do remember how the election used to be conducted in the school or colleges with respect to CR, class representatives, so in the same fashion the exam this election will be conducted. So, I'm going to explain single transfer proportional representation, single transferable vote method, because the same method will be used for the election of Rajya Sabha members, election of vice president, and the election of MLCs. So if you do remember the method, you need not, UPSC will not ask about this one. If you do remember the method, you can use it or while studying or while going through the Lakshmikant book. Whenever you come across proportional representation, single transferable vote, you can easily remember that fact. Say suppose there are 50 students in the section and they have to select 2 candidates as president and vice presidents, and 4 members are contesting in the election. So before we start over here, first they will check the quota method. Quota in the sense, this is the minimum number of vote a person should get to win in the election. How it will, how they are going to calculate that one? That will be calculated. They will take up the total number of votes divided by the number of posts for which election will be conducted, and they are going to add 1 to that, and the whole thing will be added to one more extra. This will give you around 17.66 or the 18. So the minimum number of votes a person should get to win in the election to become a CR or the president or the vice president among the 50 students when 4 are contesting in the election is the 18. Say suppose, like, what they will do, they will give ballot paper or the paper to 50 students. That ballot paper will consist of, they will give, like, for the student 1 they will give in this fashion. Student 1, say suppose the candidates who are contesting in the election are A, B, C, D. A, the name will be written over here, C will be written over here, D will be. In front of that, the student 1 has to give his preference, whether he wants A to become president in the first instance or the second instance, whether B to become president or the vice president, or he can give the preference in this fashion. So A will have the highest preference according to student 1, and D will have the lowest preference according to student 2. When it comes to the same fashion, student 2, say suppose this person has different orientation towards A, B, C, D. He doesn't like A, so he will give the preference 4, and he will give the preference 3 to C, and he will C he will give 1, and for D he will give 2. ಈ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಪ್ರಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ನ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಹಾಗೇನೆ it will continue till 50th student. This ballot paper will contain A, B, C, D, and he will give the first preference to A, and B will be given fourth preference, something like this. So this is the voting what these students have made. The officer over there, he will collect the ballot papers and he will start counting it. How they are going to count it? In the first round, they will check only the first preference. Say suppose A has got 20, B has got 10, C has got 12, and the D has got only 8. This shows that the preference of 20 students, the first preference of the 20 students is A, first preference of the 10 students is B, first preference of the 12 students is C, and the first preference of the 8 students is D. What is the quota? What is the minimum number of votes he has to get win in the election? That is the 18. So A has got more than 18 and he will be selected in the first instance itself. So he has to, how many candidates should be selected? 2 candidates should be selected. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ A ಗೆದ್ದಾಗೋಯ್ತು, ಇನ್ನು ಉಳಿದಿರೋದೆಷ್ಟು? ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪೊಸಿಷನ್ಗೆ ಇವರು 3 ಜನದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಡುಕ್ತಾರೆ. How they will search it? In the second round, they will go for the ballot papers who has got least number among the remaining 3 members. B has got 10, C got 12, and D got 8. So D has got the least number. In the 8 ballot papers, they are going to check the second preference. Those who have given the D as the first preference, the second preference ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಎರಡನೇ ಪ್ರಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್, ವೆದರ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಬಿ ಆರ್ ಸಿ ಆರ್ ಎ, ಈ 3 ಜನದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಪ್ರಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ನ ಯಾರಿಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ ಮೈಟ್ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಸಚ್ ಎ ಫ್ಯಾಷನ್ ದಟ್ ದ 8 ಬ್ಯಾಲೆಟ್ ಪೇಪರ್ಸ್, in this the second preference for C is 6, and the some other 2 members might have given the second preference as B. So if you do check the number of votes for C now after the second round, it comes up to 18, and if you check the B's count after the second round, it will come up to 12. So what is the minimum voting required for the winning the election? 18. So C got 18 and B got 20. A and C will be selected. This is how president will be selected. This is the proportional representation single transferable vote method. This method is used for presidential election, vice president election, Rajya Sabha members, and the selection of the MLCs. member of legislative, most of the members of legislative councils wherever it exists. So UPSC will not ask this one, but you remember whenever you are reading, then you can easily understand what you understand. You can easily understand what exactly proportional representation, single transferable vote means. So for the purpose of presidential election, the MLA vote and the MP vote will be weighed according to the number of seats and the population of that state. If you check the value of an MLA vote, it will be total population of that state. If you take as Karnataka, 7 crore plus, and the number of MLA seats, that is into divided by 1000. This is the value of a MLA vote which will be casted in the presidential election. Later they will check the value of MP vote. The value of MP vote will be equivalent to the total value of MLAs from all the states divided by number of MPs. So generally, if you look into these two formulas, we can straight away make out one thing, that value of MP vote will always be greater than the value of MLA vote, because UPSC earlier they used to ask about the formula also. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ 1000 ಬರುತ್ತಾ 100 ಬರುತ್ತಾ ಈ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕನ್ಫ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. Now they have changed it and now they have gone for the almost all like those who know the concept very well, they can answer the questions easily. Earlier they were asking about the RHS part, now they have started asking about the LHS in the sense ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಸೇಮ್ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀಕಾಂತ್ ಬುಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಪೂರ್ತಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ನೋಡಿ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ. ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆಫ್ MLA vote is always less than value of MP vote, or nothing but value of MP vote is always greater than value of MLA vote. This is how the election of the president will. Then we shall look into the qualification of the president, term of the president, how he will be removed from the office, and to whom he can give the resignation. If you do check the qualification of the president as per the constitution, it says that he should be 35 years old, citizen of India, and he should not hold any office of profit. And the other thing is, it says about should be as qualified or to be able to contest in the Lok Sabha. So 35 years of age, citizen of India, and he should not or he doesn't hold any office of profit. ಆಫೀಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಸರ್ಕಾರಿ ಹುದ್ದೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಸರ್ಕಾರದ ಬೊಕ್ಕಸದಿಂದ ಅವರು ಸ್ಯಾಲರಿಯನ್ನ ಪಡಿತಾ ಇರಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಟು ದ ಏಜ್, ಇದು 35 ಯಾಕೆ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ there is no rationale behind this one. And even in ರಜನಿ ಗೋಯಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ರಮೇಶ್ ಕವಿಯರ್ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಒಂದು ಟೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬುಕ್ ಇದೆ, ಆತರ ಬರ್ದಿರೋಂಥದ್ದು ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಅಡ್ಮಿನಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ. ಇಫ್ ಯು ಗೋ ಥ್ರೂ ದಟ್ ಒನ್, ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ದೀಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ಡೀಟೇಲ್. ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಗಿವನ್ ದಟ್ there is no rationale behind why the age been made as 35, because in the same textbook they are going to tell the same thing, like they are going to discuss the first 5 presidents of India, they were double than this. So they were 70 plus years old when they decorated the institution of president, when they entered into the office of president. So there is no rationale behind why it is being made 35. If you look in this fashion, like if you say the minimum age is for Lok Sabha to contest in the election, it is 25. For the Rajya Sabha, it is 30. when it comes to president, when it comes to vice president, when it comes to governor, they have given it as 35. In this sense, he is elder compared to these legislators. So he will be in a position to share his experience. He will be in a position to guide them in a better manner when he is older than them. Whether it is a 5 years old or 10 years old or 30 or 40 years old, elder will be in a position to guide these legislatures. So this might be the condition. So need not to worry about this one. Just remember this 35 years old. Then it comes to citizen of India. When it comes to citizen of India, here constitution will not tell whether it is natural born citizen or naturalized citizen. Right, recently there were issues regarding the citizenship, and there is a chapter in the Lakshmikant book also. When we deal in detail, we'll explain about the naturalized citizen and the natural born citizen. But this year there was a huge issue regarding the citizenship. We might expect a question regarding the same in the examination. The natural born citizen means is the son of the soil theory. Son of the soil theory in the sense, ಈ ಮಣ್ಣಿನಲ್ಲೇ ಹುಟ್ಟು ಬೆಳೆದಿರೋ ಅಂಥವ್ರು, ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಪೌರತ್ವ ಅನ್ನೋದೇನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಹುಟ್ಟಿನಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರೋ ಅಂಥದ್ದು. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಥಿಯರಿ is very much applicable in America. It is not applicable in India. Son of the soil theory, ಮಣ್ಣಿನ ಮಗ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಹಿಂಗ್ ಕರಿತೀವಲ್ಲ, ದೇವಗೌಡನು ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಥಿಯರಿ ಬೇರೆ, ಇದೇ ಬೇರೆ. So when it comes to naturalized citizen, a natural citizen ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ any non-citizen who is not citizen of India will become the citizen of India through the legal route or through the applying for the citizenship, or some people might get the citizenship of India because of the recommendation made by the central government or the executive. So Constitution of India doesn't differentiate, like it will only tell that citizen of India can become the president of India. Naturally born citizen or the naturalized citizen, it will not make any difference. So you need not to worry about these things. So these are all the further, if you are interested in these things, you can go further. So then the term of the president. Term of the president mentioned in the constitution is 5 years. Before the expiry of this 5 years, he can give the resignation and he can leave the office. He can give to whom he should address the resignation. It should be addressed to the vice president. Remember one thing, president will give the resignation to the vice president and the vice president will give the resignation to the president. So what will happen if the any one of the position is vacant, either the vice president or the president? This happened once when the VV Giri was vice president. Let's take up impeachment procedure and the removal of Supreme Court or High Court judges. In the impeachment, what they will do, if there is any violation of Constitution by the President of India, the impeachment process or the procedure will start in any one of the house. Say suppose Rajya Sabha is going to start this one. If they want to start it, it should be supported by the 1/4 of the members of Rajya Sabha. If it is supported by the 1/4 of the members, then a notice will be sent to President before 14 days. And after the 14 days, this Rajya Sabha will take up the issue, and after 14 days, if it passes with the majority of 2/3 of the total membership, then it is considered to be passed by Rajya Sabha. Then the motion will enter into house number 2, that is Lok Sabha, and this Lok Sabha will act as a investigating house, and it will, if it considers that there is a violation of the constitution by the president, then it has to pass the impeachment bill or the impeachment motion through two-thirds of total membership. Once it is been passed by the Rajya Sabha and in the Lok Sabha, then the president on that day is deemed to be removed from the or impeached from the post of president. So if you do check over here, house number 1 and the house number 2, only these two houses are participating in the impeachment of president. When it comes to removal of the High Court or the Supreme Court judges or the higher judiciary, here if the bill is introduced in Rajya Sabha, it should be supported by 50 members. If it is supported, if it is introduced in the, if the motion is introduced in the Lok Sabha, it should be supported by 100 members. So if they get the support of 100 members, they will represent or they will give the letter to speaker saying we are supporting regarding the removal of this judge so and so. When the speaker accepts it, he will form the committee. This committee consists of Supreme Court judge and the Chief Justice of any High Court and a eminent jurist. So this committee of 3 members will look into the issue and they have to give the report, that report regarding the proved misbehavior. Only on this basis it can be removed. So the committee will provide the report. This report will be given to speaker and the speaker will put this one in front of the house. After this one, this motion should be passed in such a fashion that there should be special majority. Special majority in the sense it should be two-thirds of present and voting, along with it should satisfy one more condition. This should be at least half of the total membership of house. When this condition is satisfied, the bill or the motion deemed to be passed from the house 1. Then it will enter into house number 2. This will act as an investigative agency and it will also pass through the special majority as same over here. Ade tara. Two-thirds present and voting and it should be equivalent. ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅಥವಾ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅವೆರಡು ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅದರ ಅರ್ಥ. ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಆರ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಓದಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಗಮನ ಇಟ್ಟು ಓದಿ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಮ ಫುಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ಏನೇನು ಬರ್ತಾವಲ್ಲ ಅವನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ನೋಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಶೋಸ್ ದಟ್ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಮೆಜಾರಿಟಿ ಇವೆರಡೂ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಆದಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಮೆಜಾರಿಟಿ ಇನ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಹೌಸ್, ಸ್ಪೆಷಲ್ ಮೆಜಾರಿಟಿ ಇನ್ ದ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೆಡ್ ಟು ದ president. If he gives the assent, then the judge will be removed from his post. So if you check this procedure, here the president is participating in the removal procedure. Here the president is not participating. So this shows that the impeachment word should be used in general with the president, not with the removal procedure of the Supreme Court and the High Court judges. Succession of president. If the president office is vacant, or if he dies in the office, or if he is removed from the office, who will preside or who will act as a president? If the president is not there, then it will be occupied by vice president. So then if the office of the vice president is also absent, then it will be occupied by Chief Justice of India. If Chief Justice of India, this position is also not there, if it is also vacant, then the parliament will decide. Any senior most judge of the Supreme Court will preside as a president or will act as the president. Whenever they act as a president, they will get the emoluments or they will get the immunities as equivalent to the president only. When it comes to America, they have the 11 presidential candidates. Whenever any one of the person or any of the whenever president object, any one of the 11 members will preside over the meetings. So in India we doesn't have such a system. We are moving with the conventional things whatever we witness over here. So next come to powers of president. President has legislative powers, executive powers, judicial powers, and then the military powers, emergency powers, wide range of powers being given to president on the paper, but in reality all the powers are enjoyed by the prime minister who heads the council of ministry council of ministers. So the real executive is PM and the nominal executive is president, and the nominal executive has these many powers. If you do check the powers of president, the first is the appointment of the PM, council of ministers, and other constitutional bodies. How he is going to appoint PM? The PM will be appointed after the election. He is going to give chance to leader of single largest party. If any of the party didn't get the majority, then he will give the chance to single largest party, which is of the nature pre-alliance. ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಗಿಂತ ಮುಂಚೆನೇ ಅವರೇನಾದ್ರು ಒಪ್ಪಂದ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತ ಒಬ್ಬ ಲೀಡರ್ ನ ಕರೀತಾರೆ. ಸೊ he will be given chance to form the government. If he doesn't get any of the single largest party with the pre-alliance, then he will go for the single largest party of post alliance. Post alliance ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಆದ ಮೇಲೆ ಅಧಿಕಾರಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆಯಾಗಿ ಸೇರಿರೋಂಥವ್ರು. ಸೊ ಇವನ್ನ ನಾವು ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲಯನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಇವನ್ ದ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವರಿಡ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ಚಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಟು ದ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಹೂ ವಿಲ್ ಅಲೈ just because just to enjoy the power after the election. But the Supreme Court also commits the fact that there is no better option compared to this one. So ಸದ್ಯಕ್ಕೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವ ಬೆಟರ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, then we have to go for the election ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಸುಪ್ರೀಂ ಕೋರ್ಟ್ ಸಹ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯಾವ ವಿಚಾರ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. See, if he doesn't get any of the best post alliance also, in his discretionary personal judgment he can appoint any of the person as president whom he feels like he can prove his majority as the PM. ಯಾರನ್ನಾದ್ರೂ PM ಆಗಿ ಅವರು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾಮಿನೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಂತರದಲ್ಲಿ he will ask him to prove the majority by giving a certain date. ಅವನಿಗೆ ಸರ್ಟನ್ ಟೈಮ್ ನ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಈ ದಿನಾಂಕದ ಒಳಗಡೆ ನೀನು ಮೆಜಾರಿಟಿನ ಪ್ರೂವ್ ಮಾಡು. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಷನರಿ ಪವರ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ದ ಸಿಚುಯೇಷನಲ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರಿಷನರಿ ಪವರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. ಸೊ ಇಫ್ he doesn't get any of these chances, then he will call for the election. So this is how he appoints the PM. Then council of ministers will be appointed by the president on the recommendations of the PM. The names which are being given by the Prime Minister of India, only those names or those members will be appointed as council of members, not the other members. If you do check PM or the council of ministers, they will reside in the office during the pleasure of president. ಈ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲೆಜರ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇದು ಸರಿ ಇದೆಯೋ ಅಥವಾ ತಪ್ಪು, ಅಥವಾ ತಪ್ಪು ಇನ್ ದ ಸೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದು ಪ್ಲೆಜರ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ವೆದರ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಪ್ಲೆಜರ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ ಆರ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಸ್, ಅದನ್ನ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಸಿ ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಕಮ್ಸ್ ಟು PM, he will be in the office as long as he enjoys majority in the parliament. So as long as he enjoys the majority in the parliament, it shows that the members have confidence in the PM. That shows that in case of PM, the pleasure of president is nothing but it can be equated to pleasure of the parliament or the majority of the parliament or the confidence of the members. When it comes to council of ministers, here also we are going to see that is pleasure of president. ಇದಾದ್ರೂ ಸರಿನಾ? ಇದನ್ನ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ PM is going to advise President regarding the appointment of Council of Ministers. The same PM will advise to the President for the removal also. So the pleasure of President is nothing but pleasure of PM in case of Council of Ministers. So whatever powers been given to the President is wide range, but in reality they are lacking. This is what we call how the policies or the decisions, everything is taken in the name of President, but when it comes to reality, it will be decided or it will be controlled or it will be determined by the PM and his Council of Ministers. So the others is going to appoint. It's a wide range. When it comes to appointments, most of the constitutional bodies will be appointed by heads of the constitutional bodies appointed by the President of India. So he will appoint Chief Justice of India, Supreme Court and the High Court judges. You remember this thing. Don't be bluffed over here, because Supreme Court judges will be appointed by the President. High Court judges will not be appointed by the Governor. High Court judges also appointed by the President only. Then he will appoint the members of Election Commission and the chairman of Election Commission. Is going to appoint members of and the chairman of UPSC. He will appoint the Finance Commission. He will appoint the linguistic officer and the other members and the other posts will be most of the constitutional bodies will be appointed by the President of India. So the other powers, if you do check, is beginning and the end of session. Here you have to understand few keywords. What do you understand by the word session? Session ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ it's nothing but when the parliament is working or discussing or met together to discuss something. When all the MPs of the India will enter into Delhi or the parliament to discuss the important issues. That is what we call session. In India, we have 3 sessions, that is winter session, budget session and the monsoon session. They will sit together for the months or weeks or days and they will discuss the important issues. They will discuss whatever legislation to be taken up, whatever bills to be moved, whatever resolutions to be made, and what are the important issues related to the socio-economic development of India. So every session will be summoned by President. Say suppose now the parliamentarians are not in the session. They are not in the Delhi. They have spread over the India and they will be discussing few things with the they will be busy with the work in their own constituency. So if you do check, the Prime Minister of India will visit the President. ಪ್ರೆಸಿಡೆಂಟ್ಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿ ಅವ್ರೊಂದು ಮಾತು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಮೊನ್ನೆ ಲಡಾಖ್ ಹೋಗಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಲಡಾಖ್ದಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ ಒಳ್ಳೊಳ್ಳೆ ಅನುಭವಗಳದು. ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಶೇರ್ ದೀಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಅದರ್ ಪಾರ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟೇರಿಯನ್ಸ್. ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಇಂಡಿಯಾ. ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ in urgent manner. So what president will do, this president will send the letters to all the parliamentarians saying that you should assemble on this day. He will give the some dates, 10 days, 14 days or 15 days. Usually 14 days time they will give, or if it is urgent matter then he will give the date. So say suppose on 10th of July you have to assemble in Delhi Parliament. Ellaru bandu illi serbeku anta. This is what we call summoning. He is giving order or the letter to the parliamentarians to come and assemble over here. That is what we call summoning. Asking someone to assemble at some place or come to some place. This is what we call summoning. Once they come over here, there is a committee called Business Advisory Committee which will be headed by the Speaker. It's under the Lok Sabha. ಈ ಲೋಕ್ ಸಭಾದಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತ ಕಮಿಟಿ ಇದರ ಕೆಲಸ ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ಸೆಷನ್ಗೆ ಯಾರು ಬರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಫೈಲ್ ನ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವ ರೀತಿ ಫೈಲ್ ನ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ನ ಕೊಡುತ್ತೆ. ವಾಟ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಗಿವ್? ದ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಟು ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಮೋಷನ್ಸ್ been moved in the last session are to be moved, and then the whatever bills which are pending, which have not been passed, whatever resolutions to be taken, and whatever questions, whether it is starred or unstarred, and whether what are the important issues to be debated. These things will be report will be given to the all the MPs who are going to attend that one. The MPs will read through this one and they will sit for the session. On the 10th July in the morning, they came and they sat. They started the discussion. ಇಲ್ಲಿ discussion ನ start ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. They started the discussion. There is an issue, some issue which made ruling party and the opposition to quarrel with each other. And the presiding officer speaker says that we can't discuss in such a situation, so I'm going to adjourn in the sense will stop the discussion and you should meet after the lunch or we should meet after 2 days ಅಂತೇಳಿ judgment ನ ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. So you will tell that 10th you have met and you come on the 12th ಮಧ್ಯಾಹ್ನ ಬಿರಿಯಾನಿ ತಿನ್ಕೊಂಡು ಊಟ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು 12th ಗೆ ಬನ್ನಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. 12th ಗೆ ಬಂದ್ರು. They sat together. Again, the ruling party and the opposition party quarreling with each other, and they started throwing the chairs at each other. And the situation is in worst condition, and you will not be able to handle that one. And the speaker says it is adjourn Sunday. Adjourn is with the specific date and time. It is being postponed. Adjourn Sunday means the discussion will be stopped for that day, and when we are going to reassemble is not defined or it's not given. That is what we call adjourn Sunday. This is one condition where the speaker will give the adjourn Sunday. In the other condition, what they will do, they will start discussing the issues and everything goes in a normal manner, and the ruling party or the president who heads the council of ministers come to speaker and he will tell the speaker that, dear speaker, we have discussed much things about this one and we have to wind up the session as of now. Please pass adjourn Sunday signal. What the speaker will do, and he will act according to the suggestions given by the PM and he will pass the adjourn Sunday. This adjourn Sunday letter will be given to the president. President will look into this thing and he is going to get the things and he will he will get the things whatever been happened in the session, and he will pass or he will give a notification that is called as prorogue. So earlier he summoned to start the session. Now he is giving the notification or the letter which is called as prorogue. It will end the session. Please remember these keywords. Summoning and the prorogue is related to start and to end. Adjourn and the adjourn Sunday is to end the discussion permanently or end the discussion to for few days, few minutes, few seconds or for few hours. This adjournment and the adjourn Sunday, these are the powers available with the speaker. When it comes to summoning and the prorogue of the session, it is available with the president in terms of parliament. When it comes to state legislature, it is available with the governor. So summoning to start the session, adjourn with the it will stop the discussion and it will tell when we will reassemble. Adjourn within the session, it will stop the discussion and it will not adjourn Sunday. It will not tell the time or date when we will reassemble. So after adjourn Sunday, it is the once the session gets over, it is the prorogue which will be given by the president. It tells that the session ends over there. Apart from this, we have to understand one more technical word, that is dissolution of Lok Sabha. Since the Rajya Sabha is a permanent body, it can't be dissolved. That the dissolution will be the power to dissolve is with the president only. When he will dissolve the Lok Sabha, when the Council of Ministers headed by PM loses the majority or the confidence of the House, then only he can dissolve. In the dissolution, it refers to end of session plus call for new election. So remember these keywords: summoning, starting; prorogue, end that session. It's not result in the dissolution or in the new election. Adjourn, and the adjourn sendai is the power available with the presiding officer. The presiding officer for Lok Sabha is Speaker and the Deputy Speaker. Presiding officer for the Rajya Sabha is Chairman and the Deputy Chairman. So this is the question been asked in the UPSC. The question says like power to adjourn and the adjourn sign is available with the presiding officer. So power to summoning and the prorogue and the dissolution is available with the president. So this is the major, the important function of the president.